Hey everybody, this is Dream. I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm actually going to just use my spreadsheet to go through the players for FanDuel. Let me know in the comments below if you like this better or worse compared to me like clicking through the players on FanDuel or DraftKings itself. I'm just going to try it different and see how this goes. So with that said, let's get into the players themselves. Before I get started though, can you please smash that like and subscribe button? I really do appreciate it. Let's get into the players themselves. At point guard here, we have Trey Jones. He is $5,100. And if he is starting, which he looks like he will, he is as ideal as he is on DraftKings because of the price point. But I still think he's in a good spot, and I do like him over here on FanDuel, assuming he does end up starting, which he probably will. Monte Morris is a good contrarian option off of Trey Jones if you want to for Washington. Now, he does need to start to be useful here, but he's a pretty decent option if he does that. For Cade Cunningham at his price point, his floor does need some work, but he has a good ceiling. I'm a little concerned about his price being a little bit higher than I would typically like him to be, but he does have some injuries that he's going to get to play around, with bolts out and stuff, so I do like him okay. Kyle Lowry seems a little bit underpriced here on FanDuel, and with Oladipo out, he should have a little bit of upside from that. Damian Lillard and De'Aaron Fox both look like pretty good options here on FanDuel, much better than on DraftKings where they're a little bit more expensive. I do think that they have some good upside in these matchups, and of course both teams are going to play fast and not play a ton of defense, and so we definitely like guys that are playing in those type of games. Then we're going to look at Mike Conley here at $5,400. He has to share the ball with a new point guard now, but with Sexton, but I still think his price is too cheap for his potential production here, and so overall I think he's in a good spot. John Morant looks like he's in a pretty good price point here on FanDuel, probably a little bit underpriced actually for what he'll do as the season progresses. Jamal Murray seems underpriced, but of course he hasn't played in a year, so he's a little bit of a wild card, but I do like him pretty good here. And then Ayo Dosunmu, sorry for butchering your name. At only $4,100, if he does start, then he's going to be a good value here on FanDuel. The catch with him is that he may not start, and then also if Levine is out, that would definitely give him a huge boost as well. Then we're going to look at shooting guard here. We have Benedict Mathurin. Now he's a young guy. He has a fun name, a cheap price, and we do need to check his minutes projected, but he does look like he's going to get a decent amount, and his price point here on FanDuel is pretty good. Buddy Hield at $5,300. He's priced a little bit too low for his potential in these matchups, and so I do love him on this slate. Tyler Hero looks like a really good option today, especially with Oladipo out. He should get around 30 minutes, and he is their sixth man. There is sometimes where he ends up starting, but usually that's with other injuries, and so we'll have to wait and see on that. But he's a pretty safe option at that price point. Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City. He's been priced, and he should have a pretty good role. But you want to check to make sure his minutes are going to, play out, before the game starts. Devin Booker, he has a lot of upside at this actually relatively decent price at $8,300. He does pretty well on FanDuel too, so I do like him here. Emmanuel Quickly is an interesting spot. Now, if he does start, then he's definitely going to be a huge great option, but I think he's a little bit too risky if he comes off the bench because the Knicks tend to run all sorts of wild lineups throughout the season. So then we're going to look at Terry Rozier here at $7,200. He has a ton of upside here because Ball's out. He's not as cheap as I'd like him to be, but he seems pretty good. Then Bradley Beal. Now the problem with Bradley Beal is that on FanDuel he doesn't seem to transition to fantasy point like where he gets 50 fantasy points as well as he does on DraftKings. Just the way he gets fantasy points. But overall, he's still a pretty decent price here on FanDuel, and so I do like him there a lot. For small forward, Cam Johnson, he just seems too cheap, especially if he ends up starting. He's going to be pretty much a must-play here. Chris Duarte, his floor is pretty annoying, but if he does start, he should be in a good spot here. But it's very important for him to start and for him to pay off here in this matchup. Sadiq Bey looks too cheap for his potential in this particular matchup. Plus, with the injuries that Detroit has, he has some upside here. Kelly Oubre, his ceiling is pretty high, but his floor is pretty low, and so I don't really love him, but I do like him okay. Brandon Ingram, he seems too cheap for his production in this game. Now, I know that Zion's back, so that's going to play a little bit into that, but I still think he's in a great spot. and I don't think that he'd be somebody you would be too worried about if you ended up rostering him. Gordon Hayward seems way too cheap for his potential and should have a bigger role since Ball is out as well. Jimmy Butler looks like he's pretty fair priced. He has some upside in this matchup, for Miami. And then Harrison Barnes, he definitely seems underpriced in a fast-paced offense. His floor can be annoying at times, though. And, of course, Fox is going to have a lot of different options to throw the ball around to. And so he's going to have to, play extended minutes for him to really pay off. But if the, Hooter is out, then that would definitely help him some, too. At the power forward position, Jeremy Socram. Now, if he starts, he's an interesting play. I don't know that he's going to start, so we'll have to wait and see. Michael Porter Jr., his floor sucks really bad, but he does have decent value in these matchups, and so I do like him okay. Scotty Barnes, his floor does make him annoying, but he does have upside at this price, and he should get extended minutes. Isaiah Jackson looks interesting if he starts. It depends on if the other guy is out at power forward for the Indiana, but if he does end up starting, he's going to be somebody I'm probably going to lock in as one of my top options. Pablo Banchero, he's very safe here on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings because he's a lot more expensive over there. But he's still a bit of a wild card because he is a rookie. Precious Achiuwa, I don't know how to say your name exactly. I'm sorry. At $4,100, he tends to do pretty good when he actually plays. But the problem is that sometimes Toronto really mixes and matches minutes with their big guys, so it's really hard to gauge on which guy is going to get the most minutes. Alexis Pokuševski, sorry for butchering your name. If he does end up starting, and I think he will, he is $4,500, makes him really interesting, and Shea Alexander will get him the ball, and he will do pretty well, I think. Now, John Collins, the enigma of John Collins and Clint Capella is that they both have 6 or 7x upside, but usually only one of them does. It's rare that both of them do, and so it's hard to know which guy is going to be that each game. They're both actually pretty decent priced evenly, so I actually think, though, if you want to go in that price range, Jeremy Grant's a safer option in Portland. Obviously, he's going to have to get used to what he's doing there now, but he's on a team where he's going to have more room to operate. Julius Randle looks like he's got big-time upside in this matchup, and his price is pretty good. And his floor is really annoying, though, but he's still in a good spot. Kelly Olynyk does look pretty decent at center. His price point makes him interesting here, but he's still a little bit risky, especially being on a new team and stuff like that. Miles Turner, his floor is a concern, but the matchup is pretty nice for him, especially if one of the power forwards is out. Bam Adebayo, he seems a little bit closer to being fair price over here. He's a lot cheaper on DraftKings, but he still has some upside on the slate for FanDuel as well. Porzingis for Washington, he seems very priced, but I don't really love him. I kind of want to wait and see how he ends up playing here with more games under his belt with Bradley Beal. Jacob Poeltl looks pretty decent here, but he's kind of in a boomer bust situation for San Antonio. And then Clint Capella, I already mentioned him. DeAndre Ayton, his price seems a little bit underpriced here as well. He feels a little underpriced on both sites rather, and so he's somebody I would take a look at. Domantas Sabonis, he's not as ideal here as he is on DraftKings, but he's still a decent play, and him and Fox are having a lot of fun, and so I do like him. The Mitchell Robinson seems like he's a little bit too cheap for his potential production here based on his past, but I will say that, the Knicks sometimes play around with their stuff, and Randall is the dominant guy there. And then Pascal Siakam, his price seems pretty good. He also has a pretty good floor here, so I do like him in this matchup as well. So that's what I have for FanDuel. If you have any comments or questions, or if there's any players you feel like I left out, feel free to leave those below. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, and have a nice day, guys.